O'Reilly. You need parts? O'Reilly Auto Parts has parts. Need them fast? We've got fast. No matter what you need, we have thousands of professional parts people doing their part to make sure you have it. Product availability. Just one part that makes O'Reilly stand apart. The professional parts people. O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Hunting Collective. I'm Ben O'Brien, and after a long break, we're back with episode number 14, and we're joined by none other than Casey Butler. Casey is the founder of Get Hushin. It's a YouTube channel, content house that he and his buddies Brian and Eric run out of Utah and Idaho, respectively. They travel around the world, or at least around the country, and they hunt and they fish. They document it in semi-live and sometimes in real time. And what makes these guys different, what makes Casey's content different, is that it's unapologetic. It's not edited. It is what it is. It shows hits, misses, good times, bad times, and it is really the entire story of Casey, Eric, and Brian and their hunting and fishing careers and lives. I've known these guys for a couple of years now and support what they do. They're just doing something different in the hunting game, and I really appreciate that. But on top of that, Casey is just a good guy. I think when we hang out in the hunting camps, we never stop laughing, never stop joking, never stop just having a ball. So he joined me this last week in Sonora, Texas, for an axis deer hunt that was unreal. Got a lot of memories made, a lot of deer hit the ground, and just a lot of action for a short 3-day hunt out in the heat of West Texas in June. So hopefully you enjoy our conversation. I think this one got a little bit deep. This one, Casey was willing to open up on some things, and we were able to talk through some of the issues with life and death and hunting. So serious as that sounds, I think it was a great conversation. So hopefully you enjoy it. Episode number 14, Casey Butler.
Hey, bud.
How you doing?
Pretty good there, pal.
How you like Texas?
How do I like Texas? I love the state of Texas. I love Texas. I have some qualms about Texas, but as a whole, I've absolutely enjoyed myself every time I've been down here.
I feel like you're not telling the truth.
Oh, like I said, I have some qualms.
Let's go over.
Texas. You want to go over those?
All the nice things that you've done in Texas are not. That's not as interesting as the hardships you faced here. We're in Sonora, Texas, by the way. Sonora, Texas is west, pretty much straight west of Austin, Texas. About 3 hours. Want to drive? And we're here on the ranch called the Canyon Ranch. The Canyon Ranch is 20,000 acres. Part of it is high fence. The part we hunted is about 10,000 acres of fair chase, free range, low fence, exotics, whitetails, turkeys, everything you can think of. So big oak flats and mesquite flats and cacti.
Lots of cacti.
A few water holes, a lot of dry dirt. Pretty arid this time of year. It's been pretty regularly 105 degrees since we've been here.
Yeah.
And all those things in this environment combined create something that is a little bit gnarly.
Very gnarly. You just want me to dive into this?
I just want you to just explain what's going on right now in your body.
I am very uncomfortable in my skin right now.
Yeah.
I get the best way I can put it. I just can't get comfortable. I just got out of the shower literally 10 minutes ago, and that was nice. But at the same time, I'm itching from head to toe. I have some concerns about some lasting bites that I got while I was down here.
Yeah.
Little sunburn. You know, the sun, just being out in the sun I lived in Arizona for a few years when I was a kid. Phoenix.
Hmm.
What I remember about Phoenix, when we then moved to Idaho, and that's kind of where I grew up, mostly where I grew up, was when it's hot in Idaho in the summer, the wind blows and it's like, oh, that's a nice breeze, right?
Yes, of course.
In Phoenix, and I feel like down here, when the wind blows and it's hot, it's just a hot air blowing in your face. It's not refreshing. It's like Ryan Callahan compared it to just a blow dryer in your face all day long if the wind's blowing, and that's how it is. So it takes it out of you just being out in the sun. I mean, we did maybe 5 miles of hiking total, maybe.
We walked around a little bit more than the normal sit over water hole.
I would say hashtag we got after it.
We got after it. Is that a hashtag?
Now it is.
Now it is.
Yeah.
We don't have a hashtag here at the Hunting Collective. Think that we could pick that one up?
Yeah. Right. Well, throw it around for a while.
Yeah.
Don't jump into it and be like, that's fine. But
let's let it marinate. Well, yeah, we found out, or some of us knew, that there is a tick specifically called the Lone Star tick, and it's a small tick. It's not as small as a deer tick or some of the smaller of this insect, but it's, I would say, a mid-sized tick for what I've seen, and it's got a white dot on its back, but it carries a virus of some sort. We'll have to look this up and get some more detail on it, or somebody can write in and tell us what's really going on. But it,
like a letter.
You made right.
Can you
mail a PO box?
Knows if it's a virus the Lone Star tick carries? Write in
PO box. Send it to PO box 123.
Address it to Dearest Mr. O'Brien.
Yes, please. I'd like you to write with an ink quill.
Sorry.
Type in.
Finger
in. I don't know what. You type with your fingers. You type with your fingers. Yeah. We're way off track. It going for 5 minutes.
And what are we talking about?
The Lone Star tick. It when it bites you, it injects some sort of protein into your bloodstream, and that protein then it creates an allergy to red meat.
Does that not sound like the worst possible thing that could? I mean, let me step back. It's not the worst possible thing that could happen to you as a human being, but it's pretty darn close.
I mean, in all irony, like if you're hunting for red meat and you get bit by a tick that carries that so they're telling us here it's 1 in a billion.
Yeah,
those aren't odds. What's all that 1 in a billion talk? That's too much for me.
Well, yeah. So
0 in a billion would be about what I'd want.
Well, put it in a reverse way. Like, what's the chances of winning the lottery? 1 in a billion? 1 in 10 billion?
Who knows?
I don't play the lottery because that's like way out there.
Neither do I.
But when it can be a negative thing against you, 1 in a billion sounds like, like the phrase, so you're saying there's a chance. Well, that's the thing, is the outfitter told us, he's like, oh yeah, it's like 1 in every 1 billion ticks has it. Yeah, so my buddy was out here last year and
got it.
And I'm like, so
you're telling me a billion people didn't come here?
No.
And he just got it?
It's not 1 in a billion.
He's lying.
I don't know. It scares me because let's go back to thinking about this. We are out here hunting, doing something we love, and in hopes that we kill a deer.
Yeah.
And we can take it home, because a big reason for hunting axis deer down here for me right now is because it's some of the most delicious meat I've ever had.
Yes.
And so you're down here to do that, and then you can contract something that would end all of that? Is it worth it?
Wow. I'm just reading about this now.
Oh, you're reading? Yeah. Did somebody phone in?
Yeah, somebody.
See, that's what you should do, is phone in. Do a live podcast.
Since this isn't live, you have to call me later.
Well, you could text out, yeah, or you could tweet out or Instagram out.
I could do that.
We're doing a podcast about this. We want to hear from you, and then millions of people listen to this, right?
Yeah, millions.
Millions of people have your phone number.
Millions of downloads. So USA Today is a story. Lone Star tick bites can cause rare meat allergy in some people. Oh, if you spot a tick, grab the tweezers, is what it says.
Read
Oh,
that.
boy.
Read that first line again. It says, it can cause a meat allergy in some people. So that's not telling me that like 1 in a billion of these ticks has it. That's saying like if you're the right person and get one of these ticks on you and embed in you, you could have it. Is that how you read it?
That's how I read it. It says a type of sugar called alpha-gal, which is present in mammalian meat, triggers the allergic reaction once you're bitten by this tick. Unbelievable. He said doctors first noticed the strange reaction, which is sometimes called alpha-gal syndrome, a little over a decade ago, and were able to slowly piece together that those who developed the meat allergy had one thing in common: Lone Star tick bites. Unbelievable. Here's look at that close-up picture of it. Oh my gosh. We've seen a few of those. Now I got bit by a Lone Star tick yesterday.
It looks like it has a birthday cake on its back.
Which would be.
Does that look like a birthday cake?
It does kind of a little bit.
Yeah. Like, can we go into the story now?
Yeah, please.
So, Ben, bless his sweet little heart, invited me and Ryan Callahan from First Light down here to do this hunt. Kind of a last minute thing, and I jumped at the chance. Like I said, I've had Axis meat before, and it is, probably my favorite meat I've ever had.
Yeah,
my favorite red meat. So I was like, sweet, we can shoot a doe, we can shoot a buck. Anyway, we come down here, and he doesn't even tell me about it the first day. It was like one of those, oh, by the way, because after our first day hunting, which was an absolute blast, by the way.
Yes, it was.
I think you had a tick on you.
I did.
And I was like, oh, there's ticks down here. Oh, yeah, lots of them. Be careful. I was like, oh, yeah, I never really get ticks. Like, I've seen them. I've been out bear hunting and turkey hunting in the spring in Idaho and Montana, and I've seen them, but I've actually never had one embed in me. Well, Benny found one on him, and then he told me about the
Lone Star tick.
Yeah, allergic reaction this tick could cause.
But not. I went to sleep and woke up, went hunting the next day, came back with a Lone Star tick in my leg.
Yeah. Well, remember when it was while we were eating dinner, you picked one off your neck.
Yeah.
And I was kind of tripping out about it a little bit. I still am.
Why wouldn't you trip? It's a trippy premise.
Yeah.
Even if it's a rare, like everything says rare, may cause some people. It's all language that is saying that it rarely happens, but it happens.
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt, it happened here at this ranch. This is something we found out later on. But ticks, I mean, last year I was hunting north of here about an hour and a half. I got some kind of tick-borne illness from getting bit, and I was down for 2 weeks. My dad has Lyme disease from a tick bite, and yet here we are. Now, you came into this unwittingly.
I feel like, yeah, I did. I've been to Texas before, and I've hunted Texas before. Are the ticks less prominent in like January?
Yes.
So we hunted. We brought our dads down here in January of last year, or 2017 or 16, anyway, and hunted a ranch. And it was January. It was a lot colder than it is now, and I don't remember seeing ticks. I don't remember talking about ticks. But they're definitely here on this ranch. And well, so the story goes is Ben picked one off him, and I'm sitting there just telling him and Ryan, like, telling Ryan and Ben, like, is it kind of one of those things that like just ticks don't like certain people, like, like they don't like their blood. I know like people say that about mosquitoes, like, oh yeah, mosquitoes don't really bother me. They don't really bite me. My brother could be right next to me and he'll get lit up by mosquitoes and I don't.
That's right.
So I was kind of thinking in my head, or maybe I was trying to imagine this is how it worked. And I was like, yeah, to be honest, I don't think I've ever found a tick embedded in me. I've seen them crawling on me. Found them on my clothes, but I've never had one embed in me. So maybe it's one of those things. And it was literally 2 minutes later, I went to cross my arms, and Ryan's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm like, what? He's like, look down your elbow. Freaking Lone Star tick embedded in my forearm.
Yep. People can tell us, are we being wussies about this? Are we not tough enough? One of our guides and an outfitter here said, I've gotten bit by hundreds of Lone Star ticks. I've lived here my entire life. Nothing has ever happened to me. Like, me too, man. I got that one viral infection last year. The last couple weeks I was sick. I was fine. But I know a lot of people that have a lot of problems because of these types of things. And we're vigilant. We wore DEET most of the time. We sprayed with some off and different type of sprays. And we're pretty vigilant not to be laying in the tall grass ever. But I think we came down. You probably came down here fearful of the rattlesnake.
Without a doubt.
And
Without
left.
a doubt.
And left fearful of the tick.
To be 100% honest right now, like long term, I'm glad I didn't get bit by a rattlesnake. I'm terrified of rattlesnake. I'm not terrified of all snakes. There's a big misconception out there. People think I'm terrified of all snakes. I'm terrified of getting bit by a rattlesnake just because of what it can do.
Yes.
Same with this tick. Like, this is what I was thinking about yesterday was Texas is a wild place. Like, we go on a lot of different hunts, and mostly we do Western big game hunts, and typically they're, do-it-yourself hunts on public land, and there's a lot of challenges that come to those, right?
Yep.
Come with those.
Sure.
And especially, Ben, you've been all over the world on hunts, and every hunt comes with a different challenge. Sometimes it's a physical challenge, climbing mountains to kill a stone sheep, or maybe it's a mental challenge. You just have to like stay in the game long enough, and it can happen. Like, we've all been on those hunts. Texas is no different. Like, even though this is a giant ranch, and there's a ton of animals on it, and it's not where, like Ben said, where we hunted was not the high fence section. There's still a ton of animals on it, and
high fence would. I mean, the number of animals here.
Yeah.
You don't feel like, what was interesting to me and quickly, we quickly put this hunt together and was thinking about having you and Cal out here is like where you live, you'd be lucky to see a deer once, or you're lucky to go out and scout or go out and hunt and have a few encounters in a day. Half a dozen would be a great day. Here we can have half a dozen in an hour.
Easily.
And so it does it's a couple of things. It keeps you in the action. It keeps you in the hunt. Keeps you wanting to be out there, which not that other hunts don't do that, but this really does. And it sharpens your ability to stalk. It sharpens your ability to shoot, to know when to shoot it. Everything about bow hunting is repetition to get good at it. And I find these types of hunts, our hunt in Lanai from episode 13, the same way. And so it's interesting to see that repetitive sharpening of what do I got to do? When do I got to do it? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do it right? What's the strategy? And we got to do that this week because the deer just kept coming and coming and coming.
No, it was great. Yeah, like you say, like, man, I'm in a giant slump right now and have been since last year. Like, I messed up some shots I should have made last year, and it was good to get out, and that was the most important thing. Besides that, you telling me there's ticks that could pretty much end my life, but the most important thing you told me was don't worry about screwing it up because you will have another chance.
Yeah.
Make sure you're comfortable. Draw back. Like, remember all those mechanics that you've learned and practice. Like, do that, and if you screw it up, you screw it up. You're gonna have another chance.
Yeah.
Which was great. And dude, how many times did I pull my bow back yesterday?
Half a dozen more.
Yeah,
like
that. Just the fact of drawing your bow on a live animal and trying not to expose yourself to a live animal while you're drawing your bow. That's great practice. That's something you never get to practice unless you're out hunting.
Yeah, and if you're a whitetail hunter, you may do it twice a year.
Yeah.
Or, depending on what your strategies are. And so, I think these type of hunts, especially this time of year, there's not a whole lot going on. Fishing, mostly. Some bear hunting here and there. These are important type of experiences for me, but I, since living in Texas, I've hunted down here well before I was a resident, but this is kind of how spring turkey, spring axis deer goes. You go out, you get bit by something, it hurts, it scratches, you scratch the itch, and it takes a couple of days, it goes away. But there's that permanent thought in your mind that, oh man, this could be, I could get Rocky Mountain spotted fever, I could get Lyme disease, I could get this rare
Well,
gal disease now that I've learned about.
well, that's what I
Sorry,
kept
gals
thinking
out
about.
there.
That's what I keep thinking about. Is
name it.
like if you were to uh, get this, is it a disease or virus?
Yeah.
And if you weren't allowed, the way I understand it, and what was explained to me by the outfitter was his buddy that got it basically cannot eat red meat.
No,
And
you
if he
cannot
does,
eat-
he doesn't die or anything, but he feels like he has the flu for 24 to 48 hours.
Right.
He gets very sick. It's so bad that he's from down south somewhere where they barbecue a lot, and he can't even smell the smoke when his buddies barbecue because it gets him sick.
That's terrible.
So if I was thinking, like I was applying that to my life, like what if tomorrow, Casey, you wake up and you can't eat red meat? It would suck, A, right?
That's A.
That's A. And B, it would change my life. It would change my family's life.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I hunt for numerous reasons. It's fun. I love the challenge. I love being out. It's something that I grew up doing. It's something I want to pass on to my kids. But also I love eating the meat.
Yeah.
Like that is what supplies my family with food. I guess
Too.
I mean, if I could, I guess what would happen is I would still hunt to provide for my family, and I would eat tuna. I guess I don't know. You're supposedly can eat fish.
You
if
can,
get
and
this.
some they were saying like some white meats,
White
chickens,
meats.
or maybe turkeys or something. But I find this to be people need to know. People out there, you need to know. Lone Star ticks are not just in Texas either.
I feel like people, especially looking into coming down here or going where they are. I've never heard this before. I thought I thought you were joking.
It sounds like a joke.
It
I read
does
that
sound like a
USA
joke.
Today article when it came out. I remember it, and that USA Today article was from June 2017. And so, like you said, this was happening to people, and they didn't know. At least if it happens to us, we'll have a better. I believe Rutgers University was the university doing a lot of the study. But just imagine being somebody a decade ago that got bit by a tick, that produced this allergen, and they were sick for a long time, and they could never figure it out. And it took that article said 40 people to have these same symptoms and have been bit by the same insect. And it's crazy, man. And like you said, every hunt has challenges, but it sucks when the challenges are tiny, microscopic. And like if a bear's, like you said earlier this week, if a bear's coming at you, most times you're going to see it.
Well, and the fact is, if a bear, you can see it, and you know if a bear attacks you, right?
Yeah.
Like if a bear comes and chews on you for a second, you're gonna get up and be like, "I just got bit by a bear."
Yeah, it's not going to be like a month later you'd be like, "Damn, I got bit by a bear."
Exactly.
Son
It's
of
not
a-
this thing you're gonna be wondering about and hoping it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And you don't really know until you get sick. Yeah, I just got bit by a bear. I need to go figure this out right now.
Right now.
I'm sitting here doing this podcast wondering if there's a Lone Star tick on me now, or if the one that was embedded in my arm yesterday.
Yeah, we need a psychologist now to tell us.
It's way deeper.
It's way more dangerous to drive home in a truck like we're about to do.
Yeah.
Than it is to get bit by a Lone Star tick. But the idea of the pure irony, at least maybe if it happens to one of us, we could like write a book or something, maybe start like a reality
100%.
show about your life. People would watch a hunter got bit by a tick while hunting and now can't eat red meat. I think it's probably best we move along from this subject because I
have so much more to talk about, though. I mean, not just so what I was saying.
Let's move on.
Earlier,
Yeah, there's other things that we don't like.
Yeah, so the rattlesnakes are the big thing for me.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And people are like, "Oh man, it's just a snake."
Demon serpents.
Yeah, demon serpents. There's something and we talked about this with Cal this week. There's something that is embedded in your soul that when you're walking and you see out of the corner of your eye a snake, I would assume 99.9% of people jump, right?
I would hope they do.
And then you add, so just the thought or the look of a snake is scary, I guess. And I don't know where that comes from. If it's I think it's almost a hereditary thing. My grandma hates snakes.
Yeah.
My mom hates
It's
snakes.
learned, man. I think
maybe it is. But I didn't mind snakes when I was a kid. I'd go out in the ditch and I'd catch them. We'd play with them. My grandma would freak out. My mom would freak out. I didn't mind them. And I think I just got this in the last 10 or 15 years and maybe it's just I think more about being, and I said, it's being bit by a rattlesnake.
Yeah.
Trips.
Listen is a rational fear. It's not irrational to be afraid of something that can then can bite you and inject poison into you that could cause loss of limb or life. It's not an irrational fear. If you were, being scared of heights, if you're inside of a building or in a plane or something like that, it's irrational. But there's no irrational fear in a crawling, hidden serpent that can pop out of the bushes and take your leg off.
Yeah.
In a very painful way.
Well, and everyone has their, like, I think there's a lot of wives' tales out there about different things, about snakes and ticks. Like, I think there's a lot of people who are like, snake. Like, I know my buddy got bit. Blah, blah, blah. I had a lot of bird dogs get bit, I talked to a guy in New Mexico 2 years ago when we were down there elk hunting, and I don't know what type of snake they are. It's a rattlesnake. They call them prairie rattlers, I think.
Or prairie
rattlers. No, rock rattlers.
Okay.
And everyone I've seen down there is just, they're not very big. They're like, I don't know, maybe 2 feet long. They're thin. They call them rock rattlers down there. Anyway, we were down there hunting elk 2 years ago, and I had 2 pretty close, I would call them close encounters. I was walking past a log, and one buzzed at me, and literally like 6 inches from my leg, I walked past this snake. And like 5-6 days later, I was tracking a bull I'd shot, bent over, looking for blood right at dusk. Same thing, ran right into a rattlesnake, buzzed me. So we go to this little town in New Mexico where we hunt, and we'd seen quite a few. And there's this one store there, and I was asking, I kind of know the owner because I've hunted there a few years in this area. And I was like, man, are the snakes just really bad this year or what? I'm seeing a lot. And he's like, well, I don't think any more than normal, but have you seen them? And I'm like, yeah, I've seen like, I don't know, 4 or 5. He's like, did you kill them? I'm like, no. My partner, Eric, Chester, he was with me, and he's a reptile guy, right? That sound weird, my partner in my business?
That kind of.
My partner in my business.
It's 2018.
My life partner.
You can have a partner many partners as you want. We're on the Hunting Collective. We accept all shapes.
Anyway, he's a reptile guy. He likes to catch me. Caught those rattlesnakes in his hat. And he's like, "Why would you kill him, man? They're not doing anything to you." I'm like, "Man, he could have bit me." Anyway, so this guy was like, "You kill every rattlesnake you see. If it's not you, it's the next guy that comes by or a kid that comes by that's going to get bit by that thing." And then he continued to tell me the story of his brother-in-law that was bit 10 or 12 years ago, previous, and the dude still has trouble getting out of bed in the morning because his joints are so messed up because of the rattlesnake bite.
Yeah.
Like life-altering, like within a split second, your life could be altered forever.
Yeah. It's hard to manage that mentally. It's hard to manage all of the probabilities in your life that are happening right now. Things that could be going on that could put you in danger in some way. Like, what are the probabilities of this, and this? You get in a vehicle, we were just cutting up meat, there's knives around, there's saws around. What are the probabilities of all these things happening? But some of the things that are unlikely are just fucking scary, man. And I'm not deathly afraid of snakes, but I certainly don't like them. I'm not somebody who's like, snakes, no big deal. Like, I'd rather avoid them if I could. But if I see one, I'm not gonna run. But I'm certainly not gonna go pick it up. I've hunted with folks before that are like, I'll just go pick them up, or
rattlesnakes,
or just go stomp on their heads or something. Like that's not a door I'd like to open up. I like to leave that one closed.
Yeah. Well, is it true that anti-venom for a rattlesnake bite can be upwards of like tens of thousands of dollars?
I don't know. I know that on a ranch I often hunt near Eagle Pass, Texas, that in the Eagle Pass, the ER, they don't administer because they can't afford it.
Yeah.
So they have to evac you to San Antonio.
I know
via helicopter.
Yeah, very expensive.
So yeah, I don't know. But let's just say rattlesnakes are there. They're a good representation of this country. It is sneaky, dangerous, and it seems sometimes that it's out to get you because there's cactus, there's fire ants, there's giant mounds of fire ants. There's chiggers.
Yeah, I was going to say we haven't
which
even got
is like
to the worst one.
Chiggers. is
And
the worst.
they can't really have a long time effect on you, right? Like, can they give you a virus you haven't told me about?
No. Well,
Okay.
they could give well,
Well,
they could
there
give
is a
you a
certain
virus that you
sugar that if it bites you, your skin falls off.
yeah, just a certain sugar. If it bites you, you can't upload videos to YouTube. Shit is terrible.
Man,
I know. I'm sorry.
things are south down here in Texas,
Well,
or
and
they
it's
can go
not
south.
just Texas, but this landscape in general. I mean, you go to Mexico and Arizona. This uh, longitude.
Well, now that I think about it, all these crazy things, and it's crazy to me because I didn't grow up around. I grew up
Perspective.
around rattlesnakes. Yeah, it's perspective, right? So,
Perspective.
grew up in Idaho and Utah for the most part, and yeah, the things I was worried about were rattlesnakes or grizzly bears. Where I used to elk hunt, there's a lot of grizzly bears, and um, never really thought about wolves or mountain lions, but mostly bears, and rattlesnakes and ticks. I've read, and maybe this is another wives' tale that I've heard, but I've read that the ticks in Idaho don't carry the Lyme disease. Is that true? I don't know. I don't know anybody personally that's got Lyme disease from
Yeah.
Idaho, but I'm sure they do. But yeah, so I come down here, and this is all new to me.
Yeah. Well, I would say this, and it was new to me when I got it here as well, and still is kind of in a certain way. But as a culture, even or as people, we're obsessed with the anomaly, like that rare occurrence. We're obsessed with those things because a lot of times they're special, and a lot of times they're amazing, and sometimes they're insanely horrible. And the anomaly doesn't always inform like the way you should live your life. But in this case, there's just a compounding number of anomalies that happen, like rattlesnake bites and viruses that should probably stop calling it a virus. I don't believe it is that, but a tick that can take away your carnivorous nature. So terrible.
It's bizarre. Yeah, you're right. Things that seem impossible are very intriguing.
Yeah.
Right.
And then in this case, it's quite the storyline from hunting this place. But we've had an amazing hunt, I would say. And I like this place because we're, kind of allowed out on this private ranch, and they just let us go, and they say, stalk around, find a buck you like, and go for it. Because there's no seasons on exotic game in Texas, and so and this is the rut. Generally, the axis deer are spasmodic, so they don't all rut at one time. But this generally is the time of year where most of the rutting activity happens. There's lined up in this area of the country, so you have axis deer bucks running around, like you said, everywhere, and they're roaring, which is a bone-chilling sound.
It's crazy. I kept asking Ben, if you had no education about axis deer and you were just in the woods somewhere, I don't care where you were at. It could be Texas, it could be wherever you grew up, Idaho, because I know it, and you heard that sound, would you not think it wasn't a dinosaur?
Yeah. Yeah.
A velociraptor.
I'd think wow, Sasquatch, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's so the landscape is familiar, but this animal, as much as I've hunted them in the past couple of years and talked about them on this podcast and everywhere else, they're still unfamiliar. Still getting to know them. I have many decades of I have 3 decades of experience with whitetail deer. So I'm not just getting to know them. I know a lot about them. I know how they see, I know how they think, and what they eat, how they travel. And a lot of deer species do the same things, but we got to watch a lot of axis deer. They don't do a lot of the things that whitetail deer do, and they're just intriguing for a number of reasons. But that brings me to you and I have hunted together twice now.
Yeah.
We're not lifelong friends. We've known each other for a little bit of time in the industry, and we've had those 2 experiences, and both experiences had failure in them. My failure and some yours, whatever. I mean, other people in camps, some success and some failure. All of these hunting camps are like that, and I don't know. We sure do talk about our success enough because that's exciting, and that's something that we value. That's what we're here to do, and we're excited, and we want to tell those stories. But our stories of failure, I think, is equally as important as our stories of success. And you and I haven't really talked all about that, but I find that like as I know you appreciate the experience of hunting as much as I do, and so for me, when I sail an arrow over a buck's back at 45 yards, I'm smiling. I'm happy that happened. I'm not upset that I didn't kill it. I much rather would have done that, but I don't look at it as something necessarily lost. I look at it as an opportunity gained, and I'll be better for the next one. Now, we've both, when we've hunted together, wounded animals. That's a whole different story. That's like the one thing that changes the game because that affects the animal. If you spook the animal with an arrow, that doesn't affect it too much. So just talk about that. I mean, talk about your, for me, we were in Lanai a month ago for episode 13, and I had nothing but failure. I mean, so much failure that I wasn't sure if I could draw my bow back just because I didn't want to let it down again. That's not, or shoot an arrow and watch the axis deer duck it again. I came here and I had immediate success. First morning, success, boom.
Well, I think that's important to talk about. And you had made mention of that after, and I didn't realize that you had such a tough time in Lanai trying to get a deer kill. I knew you didn't kill one, but you had that first morning was absolutely amazing. We had a great morning hunt, got into axis deer, learned a lifetime of knowledge of axis deer in that one morning. We were close. We heard them calling. I saw them do all these things I never even knew they did. You shot a buck at 40 yards and absolutely just made a perfect shot. Buck runs 20, 30, 40 yards, something, tips over dead. Like perfect scenario. And I can't remember the exact quote or what you said exactly, but it was somewhere along the lines of, man, all those failures in Lanai really like honed me for this hunt.
Yeah.
Like you were on it, man. Like looking back now, I was like, man, Ben was dialed. Like,
yeah,
Ben knew exactly what he needed to do. Ben knew exactly where he needed to place that arrow. And it ended up being perfect. And that comes from all your failures that you had in Lanai.
Yeah, because you can't, in the moment, you can't play them all back, right? If I was like, oh, wait, dear, chill out. I have to replay all the moments to make sure I'm informed by them for this one so I don't fail again because I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can miss again or not get a shot again or whatever. But yeah, I just remember thinking there's two types. I mean, guys like Remy Warren will tell you about just being the arrow, like being confident and knowing you're not worried about whether your gear is going to perform. You're not worried about you can do it. You're just worried about where that arrow goes, and you just kind of become it, and you know where it's going to go, and you know it's going to be good. And I don't often have that. You get a lot of failure, and you doubt yourself, and just leads to bad stuff.
100%. I tell people all the time, like, the absolute worst thing for me anyway, like to go on a hunt, is to not have confidence in my equipment and not have confidence in yourself.
Yeah.
If you go out with those two things, you will not succeed.
Yeah. And I had John Dudley tell me, showed up to his place in Iowa with a bow that wasn't sighted in, and I've got a travel schedule that's crazy and a job and a kid, and life got crazy, and I didn't shoot my bow as much as I should have. And I showed up there, and he's just like, "Look, man, this is part of this. Like, step your game up." He was just honest with you. Step your game up. He's like, "I've hunted with you 4 or 5 times, and the 3 times you showed up with a bow that you were confident with, you killed stuff. And the times that you show up and you're like, I still need to shoot a little bit, or the times where you're thinking about other things. You're not comfortable with that stuff. So yeah, when you spend 5 days failing with a bow and with a setup and with an animal, a certain type of animal, I mean, it sharpens you. If you were, if you just go out and succeed the first time, I'm sure you learn things, but the level of frustration causes you to want to get better, and then you go out there kind of unwilling to feel that again. and that unwillingness sharpens everything. And I was just pretty determined at that
No,
point.
man, I saw it in your eyes, like, and especially looking back and knowing, like I said, I didn't know exactly the struggle you had over there in Lanai trying to kill one of these deer. But yeah, looking back, I was like, now I can be like, yeah, Ben was like, he had that predator instinct in him.
Yeah.
And I used to tell that to my dad. I remember, like, I thought about this today, and in all honesty and fairness, I will be like, I have to tell you, like, I am in a bad spot right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I went through some stuff, like, when I left. So what happened, I guess we can talk about that,
Yeah,
is,
please do.
I mean, the first day I didn't really hunt. I just had so much fun following Ben and Cal around that I was like, I'll just run the camera and try to capture as much of this as I can, because it was so much fun, and we captured some amazing content. And so yesterday, right, was the
Yep.
first day I hunted, and Ben had killed a deer, a buck, and Cal had some chances. And then yesterday morning we went to a location and we got in on the deer, and it was my turn to be the shooter, I guess. And we got into this water hole. We basically stalked a buck for a while, and then we realized he's headed to this water hole. Me and Ben both looked at each other and said, we got to get to the water hole.
Yep.
Beautiful buck. One of the bigger ones we saw. So we get to the water hole, and it was just awesome. Deer everywhere. It was drawn back on that one deer that we spotted there, or was stalked there. 43 yards. Never presented a shot. And dude, and even to go back further, the reason I'm saying I'm in a bad spot is because my archery elk hunt in Idaho last year was rough. I called a bull in the very first day. I was by myself, called a bull in, filmed the whole thing by myself, called him in, got so worked up. I accidentally punched my trigger when I wasn't ready to shoot, missed the bull. The arrow kind of like flopped off to the side of him. I found the arrow, no blood or hair. The bull was fine. He ended up getting killed. And then we hunted 17 days in a row with the born and raised crew, and Trevor killed a bull. Anyway, second to last day, I was like, okay, it's my turn again. Like, I'm gonna kill a bull. Like, just feeling pretty down about my shooting and my abilities. Same thing, man. Bull comes in, and it's not my shooting; it's my mental game is way off.
Yeah.
Anyway, bull comes in to 35 yards. I just made some serious like mental mistakes and completely missed the bull, which was great, And like you said earlier, like, I can look at that and be like, no harm, no foul. But at the same time, I haven't archery hunted since then, I don't believe. And so I've been thinking about that for the last 6 or 8 months. Right?
That weighs on you.
And I was same thing. Like, I told myself, I'm going to be better. I'm going to shoot more. I'm going to practice. I'm going to figure this out. Like,
Yeah.
life happens. I don't get to shoot as much as I want. I have 4 kids, my wife. Like, I shoot as much as I can. But so coming on this hunt, I shot. I probably knew about this for a week before we came down. I shot every day. Like, okay, I got to get the bow out, shoot, retuned it. Like, I was feeling pretty good coming into this hunt. Shooting out to 65, 70 yards at the house, but feeling pretty good about this. Anyway, so yesterday morning, wonderful morning. Buck never presents a shot, runs off. Another buck comes in. Beautiful buck. And he was kind of, he knew it.
Same water hole. We just sat at that water hole. It was hot. It was like 100
yeah.
degrees. And we're like, we're just going to stay at this water hole. We'll build a little blind. We'll see what comes in. And I don't know, 45 minutes after we got settled in, here comes a big old fat velvet buck.
Beautiful buck, yeah. Like, when I saw him, I was like, I don't know how to score an axis deer, but it's never about score. It's about my instant reaction to when I see an animal. Is it? Do I get excited? Great, big enough for me. And
this is just for general practice. Just 180-inch whitetail. That's what
beautiful axis deer. Anyway, comes in, kind of knows something's up. Spooks. They bark just like an elk. If you've hunted elk before, they bark for like a warning sign. Like, what are you? Like, come out. He barked a few times. I got drawn back. Anyway, he runs out to 65, and Ben says, you have to shoot him when he stops. Like, this will be your only chance. Ranged him, felt confident. And all I've ever heard about axis deer when you're shooting at them is they're cagey little buggers. Like, they will jump your string.
Oh.
I've heard that from guys at 20 yards, at 30 yards. I was at 65. I'm like, this thing's gonna jump my string, and I felt like mentally I was in it. Like I wasn't like didn't have the quotation buck fever they call it. I felt like I really talked myself through this shot.
You
Like,
did too, and I was watching. And I've seen axis deer put their bellies in the dirt on a bow shot at 25 yards.
yeah.
To the point where there's no way you would have had to aim at the bottom of their stomach to hit them in the backstrap. I mean,
Well, and that's what I did with this. I thought, and obviously I aimed a little bit too low, but 65. That was the last thing I said. Is this is a long shot? I'm comfortable with this shot, but at this shot, any animal will jump the string, right?
Yeah.
I have a short draw length. I have short arms. I'm not shooting a super fast bow. But so the last thing I remember is just go low of his body, like, and maybe it was an inch is what I felt like it was. Release the arrow, and in my head, I'm like, arrow sailing through the air, and it slows down. Now I think back, like I remember the thoughts I was having. I was like, that's a dead buck. Like he's gonna sink right into it. Anyway, arrow goes flying, and just you see it arcing down, and the deer never moved a muscle.
He just statue.
He just statued me. Like watch the arrow go below him.
Oh, you had him. I was like, oh, here it goes. And then when I saw that arrow dropping in to the boiler room, I thought, oh yeah.
Yeah, like he's gonna sink right into this thing. Never moved, shot, I don't know, right below him.
I mean, I think you might have, give him a shave.
Give him a shave. Yeah, it was close, but I mean, so for that experience, I was like, well, I felt great about the shot. I talked myself through it, and that's been my motto since last year was just slow it down.
Yeah, slow it down.
Talk yourself through this. You do it all summer long. You go to these total archery challenges and shoot. Like, just slow it down and do that. I feel like I get rushed sometimes when I see an animal, and you work so hard to do it sometimes that when you are presented that opportunity you've been hunting for, it's like, I've got to do it now. I've got to do it now, or else I'll never have that chance again. I feel like I fall into that. Anyway, I talked myself through it. Thought it was a great shot. Just didn't do what I thought he was going to do. Me and Ben talked about it. Ben, you were great, by the way. You were like, man, you did everything perfect. Don't worry about that. That was a great shot. That's what I would have done. Well, then we're talking to the guy back at camp, and he's like, no. Axis deer do not. They just stand there and take it. I'm like, really?
My response was, listen, man, I've shot an arrow at maybe 10 axis deer in my life, and not one of them stood there and took it.
The
ones that I've killed, one I killed, I shot at him from so far away, there's no way he could have heard the string. And luckily I got him. And the one I shot the other day was full rut. Like he didn't know anything was going on. We're lucky to have that. So he wasn't going to jump any strings. But I missed 2 or 3 does in Lanai where it was ridiculous the amount that they would move in the short time frame that the arrow's in the air and is headed their way. It's crazy.
Yeah. So we get back to camp and they're like, oh no, let's sit and take it. So then I'm like, that's weighing on my head. Like, okay, so maybe I should just put it, and I would never recommend, now looking back, like you should never hold off the body, I don't think. No. In case of that situation. Like,
no.
I should have held,
You just read the animal. You just read the animal. For me, the thing that I've learned is you just got to read the animal. And if that deer's looking at you, and in the case of that deer, he was spooked off the water hole. He was looking at us.
Yeah.
And you're thinking if he's on alert, he knows we're here, he knows something's up, he's going to be jumpy. But if he's just he's just having a drink, it's going to take him a little bit more time to pick this up. And so you're just reading the animal, you're reading the situation, you're using your past experience to say, like, is this going to happen? What, how is this going to happen? And you're processing all of that in what is seconds.
Yeah.
Seconds. And the funny thing for me is it's like I said, it's that sharpened mentality that you just slough off. You just slough off all that shit. It's like, what? I don't give a shit if he ducks it or not. It's going. It's going to hit him. That sounds like an overly simplistic way of thinking about it, but once you've had all the failures and those things have happened, then you're able to kind of just add them up in your head, just to say, like, I've seen this before. I know what this is. I know how this goes well. I know how this goes bad, and I am going to make it go well. And it's going to happen. And And that comes down to practice too, right? I mean, it comes down to, like you said, being comfortable.
Yeah, I think for practice, I mean, it's just
Can't practice on the access to you, unfortunately.
well, no, but I feel like with practice is that it's all repetition, right? It's muscle memory, in my opinion. Shooting a bow is, and so you do it enough, and it's practicing correctly is a big thing too.
Sure.
And I think there's a lot of things. I've been shooting a bow since I was 8 years old. I'm 36 years old. Like I've been seriously shooting a bow like with my dad my whole life, basically. And I've hunted since I was 12 with a bow, and been very fortunate to kill, I think, 10 elk with my bow now. Like, I feel like I'm not accomplished, but I feel like I'm a seasoned bow hunter.
Yeah, that's a good point to make. And I would say this too. So much of what the bow hunting community is now is about this glorifying of professional hunters is not the term, but professional industry folks, guys that are on TV or on do this, in your case on YouTube or wherever your platform is, and you don't have to be, but your brands like you a lot better if you're an expert, and they like you a lot better if you're really good at it, because that adds value to what you do. And it's almost like there's no room for a normal guy who's a serious bow hunter who's just feeling it out and gets all kinds of awesome opportunities, and sometimes it makes it work, sometimes it doesn't work, and just tells that entire story. And I'm sure, I imagine you would agree with the point that, like, you and I are both just normal guys. We don't
100%.
It's normal. I'm terrible at a lot of things.
Yeah.
Like my hand-eye coordination, my jump shot is 10-year-old girl. No offense to 10-year-old girls, there are a lot of them skilled, but
I bet
dude,
there's
they're
a lot of
draining
10-year-old
threes.
girls out there right now that are offended by what you just said.
I'm sorry, 10-year-old girls.
Hey,
Go to bed.
Girls, don't write into Ben and
do your homework. Don't be listening to podcasts.
Yeah. I would. That's what I would say is, like, I feel like people think that since we do this for a living that we're
there's like this professional.
Yeah, like, oh wait, hold on. You're making YouTube or like whatever content. You're making hunting content and putting it out there and getting paid to do that.
What are you, Fred Bear?
Yeah.
Yeah, calm down, Casey.
I've never claimed to be. I hate the word professional hunter. I feel like a professional hunter is somebody that gets paid to go out and kill animals for the government. Like,
well, that's like terminology that's used pretty exclusively in Africa for.
Okay, yeah.
And
I don't know
like
what
to
that
keep
means.
It there. I don't use that term specifically because it's a term that's used in Africa and more appropriate there. But yeah. So I think there's this level. That's why failure to me is this important discussion. And you think it would be. In sports, failure is evident because most of it's getting filmed or there's an audience that's watching it live.
100%.
And in hunting, nobody's watching, so you can shape the story however you want.
Well, that's the thing, too, and that's what I would definitely wanted to talk about is, man, there's 3 of us that do Hushin, and we are all very normal people. Like, maybe even below normal. I don't know, below average guys.
Never taken an IQ test.
I'm probably way below, but I would say, like, on a scale of hunters that have hunted a long time, I think we fall in that category. We've all hunted. We all were fortunate to have great dads that taught us how to hunt when we were kids, and so we've done it all our lives. But by no means have we ever, like, done anything to, like, put us, like, set us apart. I think there's guys out there, like, I look at people like Adam Greentree and Remy Warren for sure. Like, I look at those guys and I'm like, if I would ever use that or throw that term around, like professional hunter, those guys would be it, because like I watch what they do and they're legit. Like,
right, and those guys. I don't know if they came to it. There's no application process.
No,
people see it and they know it, and that's how it works. But like you say, you have a choice when you're a content creator. You have a choice to present what story. You guys have a choice to edit out things that aren't 100%. Flattering. You have a choice to, and as do I, to just put up like, I made a post on the old Instagrams there during Lanai that just said, I am terrible at this. And it was like, if that was like a live sporting event and people had followed me for 5 days, like maybe I was like, on a golf course and they're following my group on CBS or something, Jim Nantz would be talking all types of shit on me. He'd be like, Ben can't drive, he can't putt, he can't chip, he's falling down, he fell out of the golf cart, he ran into a lake, he's drunk.
Jim Nance too.
I wish we could get Jim Nance coming.
If you're gonna find somebody that's gonna talk shit about you, it would have to be Jim Nance. Right?
Jim Nance. I'd love to have Jim Nance come and just be there, like, I need Ben. There he goes. The buck's coming in. Ben O'Brien pulls his bow back.
Arrow falls off.
Hair falls off
the wrist.
And an armadillo bites him in the foot. He falls over into a cactus bush.
We didn't even talk about the armadillos.
We're not going back to that conversation.
Well,
Armadillos give you leprosy, okay, people?
Yes.
Look it up.
Well, again,
look it up.
There should be a waiver you have to sign before you come into the state of Texas.
Well, we know.
I know these things. Did you know you can get leprosy from a biblical
plague
that wiped out billions of people? And I thought it was gone. I thought it was off this earth.
And leprosy doesn't mean like you turn green and go to Ireland. It means you just your skin boils off.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that for a minute.
Did you know that though before the other night, before Ryan Callahan was trying to catch an armadillo and the guy said, "Don't do that"?
You get leprosy. I may have much like that rare meat disease. Like I'd read an article and then just gone like, aha, great. Oh, an anomaly. Yeah. Well, again, let's not get. Well, here you go.
Anyway, yeah.
Yes, public service announcement. Don't play with the armadillo. It might give you leprosy.
Yeah. And
if you can't eat meat and you got leprosy, what can you do?
What do you have left?
What do you have left? Anyways, like if Jim Nance came along for our lanai hunt, he would have been filing like Shane Dorian and I'd be like, oh, Shane draws his bow. He shoots and kills a buck. And he gets a trophy. And he'd be like, now back to Ben O'Brien's group. Oh, he's lost a boot. Like, why is he in the road? Why is he walking down the hard road with one shoe on? Like this guy, this is how I felt. I felt just like a stooge.
Yeah.
And I just felt like I wish all the people that would ever look at anything I ever did in hunting could see this right now, because they would be like, oh, okay. A lot of them would be like, what a loser. But some of them would be like, well, that's a real guy. They're just having a bad week, man.
Just having a
bad week. He knows what to do. I went to Lanai last year and shot a good buck at 80 yards. And I thought,
you got this dialed.
Nance would have been like, O'Brien takes the shot.
For the win.
He drives it and hole in one. And so I go back there this year kind of like nonchalantly thinking, I'm going to get a deer. Something to happen. But it doesn't happen. And so I guess, I really just want to talk about, because it goes back to our hunt in Colorado. And I was coming off the same as you. I was at the Deseret with a bunch of really great hunters, and I screwed the pooch on film and had to shot a elk at 33 yards in the ass, and then had to go to get a rifle and finish him off. And I didn't have another bow hunt until November. And when I showed up in October to hunt deer with you guys, that's where I was at. And I was also just bow hunting a ton. And so I was like, wow, rifle hunting. Easy.
Easy.
I'll just show up. They'll hand me this brand new Weatherby.
You're not even hunting. You're just a shooter, right?
Pew, 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 and dead buck. Well, suffice to say, it was a joke.
Yeah.
And wounded a buck, and luckily tracked him down and shot him. And then there was that's 2 hunts in a row that were these massive failures after I had 6 or 7 hunts that were very, very successful. And showed up to Iowa a couple of weeks after I was with you guys and shot a good buck with a bow that wasn't dialed in because I had to a bunch of reasons. Shot a good buck and had success. And then went to Mexico and shot a good coos deer. So anyway, we don't need the full list of things, but it's I think for normal people with a lot of opportunities to go hunting, it's up and down.
Well,
it's up and down.
Going back to the point you were making is, we do have the choice to show what we choose to show.
Yeah.
But I have always been very passionate and adamant, I should say is the word, that we show it how it is. We have a really cool platform. It's not a TV show. It is on YouTube, and I like the way we do it because it's just like hanging out. I want the audience to feel like they're just hanging out with us.
Yeah.
And so it's, not reality TV, but it's not highly polished, highly produced stuff. It's just stuff we shoot ourselves, a lot of times holding our own camera. filming ourselves, what they call vlogging. Anyway, and we show it, and we want people to feel like they're just hanging out with us. I want people to feel like they are learning with us, because going back to us being very average people and maybe a little bit below average hunters, that we are learning as we're creating this content. We want the audience to be right there with us learning too, because there's a lot more average Joes out there than there are studs like Remy Warren or Adam Greentree. But I've always been very adamant about showing what goes on, because I tell people all the time, and we have people tell us, "Hey man, I love the way you guys shoot it. I just always just feel like I'm there with you guys. I feel like I know you guys. Like, I've never met you, and this might sound weird, but I feel like I know you." So I feel like it would be doing a giant unjust service by editing out stuff that happened that maybe we don't want people to know about. And that's what I tell my partners Brian and Eric is, if we go into it and go into everything, and it's not just this YouTube thing we do, but if you do everything in life with 100% confidence that you think it's right, that you think what you're doing is right, you should have nothing ever to hide, right? Your life should just be what you think is right. Maybe it's not right, but in your heart, you're thinking it's right.
That's why they say, like, Zuckerberg's tapping your phone. I'm like, I don't give a shit. Get in there.
Yeah, I always wonder that too. Like,
jump in there.
People get so mad. I'm like, what are you hiding?
Pictures of my son and pictures of animals.
Yeah, but no,
I see a grip and grin. That'd be terrible.
Oh my gosh, guys, I have some pictures for you. But to go back to the hunting thing, like I tell Eric and Brian, man, if we always go into every situation with hunting and say, hey, let's just do everything we think is right, then we should never have to cut anything out. Yeah. Even though we get a hard time because we've showed a lot of misses, or we've wounded animals and we've shown that, and people are like, hey, like, I thought you guys were supposed to be professional hunters and you wound animals all the time. I never see that on TV, or so-and-so never does that. And I'm like, well, I don't know what so-and-so does, but I can tell you this. What you see is what really happens. Yeah. Like, I missed 3 what I would call awesome, the most beautiful axis deer I've ever seen. I missed 3 of them this week, and I will show all of those.
Yeah.
And I didn't miss the last one. We haven't talked about this, and I guess we're getting to it. But so anyway, yeah. So in my head, this was last night. We go back out, and I'm like, oh, so they don't jump the string. Like, maybe they're a little different on this ranch.
Well, that's what I was talking about. I was like, look, this is a different place, a different ranch. These animals don't see a lot of folks. There's a lot of whitetail hunters here, turkey hunters. But at some corners of this ranch where we were, they let us out of the truck and let us go walking around to just freelance, do our thing. Maybe these deer just are a little more comfortable than the ones in Lanai, but maybe they just are wired a little bit differently. They haven't been pushed around as much, and maybe their nature is just a little bit dulled, because I do feel by nature that these deer are just a little bit more switched on.
Yeah, so we're like, okay, yeah, makes sense. That one didn't jump the string. Go back to the same water hole. We kind of knew the program because we'd watched these deer for so long, and there was just an absolute ton of deer in there. Anyway, so we get set up on the water hole pretty early. Had some deer come by. Had a ton of action come by. Anyway, about 6 o'clock, when magical hour or whatever, just like clockwork, this another beautiful buck comes in, and we had been set up on this road, and there was a fence on the other side of the road, and the water hole sat to our direct left. What me and Ben saw in the morning was when these deer come out of the trees and go to the water hole, the majority of them would jump the fence and land on the road and then walk down this little funnel into the water hole. And so the way we set up our blind was behind the fence. This was going through my head. I don't know if you were thinking about this, but I was like, this is perfect, because if they come and jump the fence where they were this morning, when they jump the fence, they're behind a tree, and they can't hear very well with them with their hooves landing on the gravel. So it's a great time to draw your bow. They walk out of the tree 20 yards.
Yeah, it's
easy.
Dead nuts.
Yeah. So what we learned pretty early was the deer weren't doing our program. They were coming in behind us.
Well, yeah, the problem is there's so many deer, and they all want to get a drink when it's 100 degrees, and they're coming from every conceivable angle.
You have, deer coming in behind you, barking at you that are scaring the other deer that are supposed to be coming in. Anyway, It was fun though. We had a blast. We
Oh.
had deer come in. I think we ended up sitting on one of the most popular trails to get travel to the water hole because we had bucks that showed up like 4 yards away from us.
Yeah.
And we were like, wow, we're like, maybe we're a little too close. Anyway, so finally this deer comes and jumps a fence. He read the script like we wanted. Jumps a fence, lands on the road. I draw my bow back and perfectly. And as soon as he lands, he just decides he was going to run through the shooting window I had and just run to the water hole as fast as he could. So he jumps the fence. I'm getting excited. I'm like, this is going to work out just like we planned, like 20-yard shot. Like, and in my head, I'm thinking about these things. Like, I'm thinking about my misses from last year. I'm thinking about that 65-yard shot I took in the morning. Oh, and there was a deer I missed at 52 yards before that.
Oh, yeah.
That came into the water hole. Okay, yeah, so this is a big part of the story. Came into the water hole, and it was 52 yards, and I ranged him. He was a little on alert. Ranged him, and Ben got the camera set up the best way he could. And you couldn't get the
You'll
deer.
see, if you watch the Hushin channel, you'll see a great oak tree that I filmed during,
anyway,
and your bow, and that's it.
He was drinking. I thought I had him dead right. Like I felt very confident with that shot as well. Like aimed right at him, and he was, like I said, on alert a little bit, but it felt like as soon as I touched that trigger, like he had spun in 180 degree, obviously, and was running away before my arrow ever got to where he was at. I was just like, oh, wow. Like, and I didn't think much of it. I was just like, what do you do there? Like, he just, it wasn't
we kept talking about it. It's like, dude, you got to, this is just erase that from memory because you didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
You didn't jump the trigger. You didn't make a bad shot. You didn't rush it. You didn't do anything. It's like, just continue to go and make these decisions, and so far they're all been the right ones. You didn't go to a knee when you shouldn't have. You lose your form. You didn't try to watch the arrow. I was standing right beside you. I could tell all those things. But then here's the situation where you do everything right and still you have no control.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing to make mention of is, man, like, these are wild animals. They do some pretty crazy things. They survive in this country. Like, all those things we just talked about that I'm deathly afraid of and worried about, they survive that 365 days a year.
Yeah.
Ticks, rattlesnakes, all that. Anyway, so yeah, they're going to win some, right? I don't feel like we lost. They just win some.
Well, that's we just sometimes it just goes their way.
Yeah.
And that's hunting. That shouldn't be.
And I get that. That makes sense to me. Anyway, so that's in my head, but I didn't think much of it. Like you said, I felt like we did everything right. So this deer reads the program and he reads the script and is following the program we wanted. And he jumps a fence, and like I said, he was supposed to jump and land on the road like most of them do. Stop, look around, and then walk out of the pine when I'm at full draw, or it's not a pine tree. Walk out of the tree, and I'm at full draw, 22 yards, I think was what it ranged at. Shoot him, and in my head I'm like, okay, this is that shot I need. I need that confidence builder where I pull back, I'm anchored for a while, I feel good, good solid 15 seconds, 20 seconds, you're feeling good, you're thinking about these things. He walks out, you make a noise, you wait for him to stop, you shoot him, make a perfect shot, and you watch him die.
Yeah.
Well, he jumps a fence, and all this stuff's going through my head, and for some reason, in my head, I think there was some other deer there.
Yeah.
I think he was trying to be the aggressor. And so he jumps the fence and just runs to the water hole as fast as he can. And all the other deer run away.
And so now you have this opportunity that you visualized.
Yes.
And you're prepared for it. And you're drawn. And it's like, I got it. Oh,
where
damn
are you
it.
going, buddy? Yeah. I was like, what? What is this? Where's he going? And he gets to the water hole. And once again, he goes to the water hole, starts feeding. And he was not on high alert at all. I didn't think.
He wasn't at all. He was drinking.
Yeah, and I'd ranged that spot, and it was 31 yards. And
I would say this about high alert. I think any animal, a lot of ungulates, but axis deer in particular are on high alert at some level. Try it all the time, but definitely at a water hole.
He wasn't looking around. He wasn't barking like some of them had been.
He wasn't looking at us.
No, he wasn't looking at us. I think he spooked those deer off, and he was kind of just watching them. And then he went to go water. He was 31 yards. I was set at 30 yards. I'm like, okay.
Showed me your pin afterwards.
I'm like, okay, it's not the 20-yard shot, but 30 yards. This is the shot it felt good. All right. I was like, you on him, Ben? Ben running the camera. And all those things go in my head. I'm like, okay, put the pin exactly where you want to hit. 31 yards, he's not looking at us like, we had just been told they don't duck. I'm like, all right, perfect. Settled the pin, felt comfortable. I remember checking my bubble. I remember thinking just follow through. I shoot, and instantly, like, I'm like, whoa, he moved a lot. And him running away, my initial reaction was, damn it. Like, I just made a bad shot because I could see the arrow. And to me, it looked like the arrow had gone through just above. To me, it looked like he went through his back strap just below his spine. And it was sticking out the other side with the fletching still embedded in his hide. And it was super high. And I was just like, oh, great. And I asked Ben, he's like, yeah, it sounded good. Like, and so then we watched the video back and tried to figure out where he ran. Ben found 2 drops of blood, and we tracked around for 2.5, 3 hours until they can't pick us up. But watching and it was weird. Like, the video was weird. Like, at one point we were like, oh, you smoked him, or you perfect shot. Oh, you hit him high shoulder, and then it was like, you might have hit him in the backstrap, bro. It's tough to see on that little camera, but brought the footage back, watched it on the laptop, and the first time we watched it, we were like, yeah, dude, literally his belly hit the ground.
Yeah. Well, not only did his belly hit the ground, but his haunches went down, and he was like turning his body.
Yeah.
And I've seen that a lot with axis deer. I've seen that arrow gets there, and their body is contorted, and your arrow might hit them. You might be aiming for their front shoulder, and you might hit them in the top of the spine, right at their tail.
Yeah.
There's so much.
They're turning and ducking at the same time.
So they're reacting in the natural way and ducking and turning. And so, yeah, man, we found 0 drops of blood. Like, we found 2 little drops of blood right where we knew he ran, and then watched the video and saw where he went out of sight and tracked around and saw nothing. I mean, nothing. And then came back here and got with the crew and then looked at the video, and it was pretty apparent that the arrow had kind of like entered right at his back strap and kicked up and was just under the hide and was sticking straight up in the air as he was running.
Yeah.
And so we're reading that as a pass through. Well, it barely looked like it barely nicked him. Just got in some meat.
Just inside the hide.
Just inside the hide. And so now you've got this, and the rule here is if you draw blood, that's your tag.
Yeah, that's your animal.
That's your animal, which changes the game in a good way, I think.
Well, yeah, because if you get a bunch of a-holes like me running around flinging arrows at everything, then you're not gonna have any animals.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great rule. A lot of ranches are like that. So, and I accept it. I'm just like, yeah, it is what it is. Like, it sucks, but I was like, hey, watching the video back, it's like, I think a lot of times when you shoot at an animal, they don't know what's going on. They don't know what that sound is. They just hear something and they might feel a little prick or a little poke, and they run off. And sometimes they think, especially now with them running, they might think, oh, it was another buck that like came in behind me and sparred me or something. So I was in my head, I'm like, oh, I bet that buck will come back in the morning. They're rutting hard. He's not going to leave. So we went back and sat, and he never came in. But
never came in.
Had another phenomenal morning. But where I was going with this, when I was telling you, like, I had this little experience when so today was like meat hunting day for me. Like, hopefully this buck comes in. If not, I had a chance to kill a doe as well. And that's, my wife has been like, you better bring something home because we're fresh out of steaks at the Butler household right now. Anyway, so today was meat hunting day for me, and we had a phenomenal morning. We watched Cal shoot a beautiful axis deer with his stick bow. Like, I don't think a lot of guys are out doing that.
The longbow.
The longbow. I don't think there's a lot of guys out there doing that.
I've never seen it. And
yeah.
It ain't easy.
So another phenomenal morning. We took a rifle with us. We're like, hey, worst case scenario, like, yeah, we'll take the rifle and we can shoot a couple does with it. And Cal shot his buck and then shot a doe with the rifle, and it was super fun. And then I was like, hey, I'm gonna walk up on this hill where we'd seen a big group go and see if I can find a doe and shoot one. Well, I got up there and there was a lot of deer up there, and I snuck in. It was super fun. There was literally hundreds of deer, and I was just like, and the problem was I was trying to find a doe that was not covered up by another by another animal, or there wasn't an animal behind her. And dude, I had opportunities to shoot does and I couldn't do it. I was too worried about missing.
Yeah.
It was running through my head so strongly, like that I was, and there was a point that I stopped. And I'm like, man, this is bad.
Yeah.
I'm in a bad place. Like
Yeah.
and they were 80 yards away with a rifle.
Yeah. Yeah, and I could see it in you too. But I got there just a couple, like 3 weeks ago. So the point where like when you draw your bow, you're like, oh, I hope this doesn't go bad.
Yeah.
And that is the exact thing that leads it to going bad. And when you're lucky enough to go, have a pretty packed hunting schedule, that just snowballs, and it gets to the point where your practice becomes lackadaisical because you're thinking about like the agony of this thing. And I think in a lot of ways that's why hunting, we love it so much, because we can experience this like pretty acute agony that comes from um, having this desire to get this thing, and the wounding of an animal in and of itself is a terrible thing, terrible feeling. You feel almost better. It's like, oh, it's just a flesh wound. You feel better, but still, when I shot that elk, and even when it was, when I knew we were going to kill with a rifle, I was just thinking, man, if somebody shot me in the guts with an arrow, well, I don't know if that's compassion or some sort of just reflection or what that feeling is, how you would judge that feeling, but it's intense as shit. Like,
It is, man.
it's no joke, and it doesn't feel good, and you're just like, I don't want to feel that again, and I don't want that animal to feel that again. And it's almost, I don't know if I want to fling this arrow.
Well, I think it's important, and maybe that's why we have to go through some of these times, is I think it's important that you recognize that you still have that.
Yeah.
That you still feel that compassion. Like, we've been able to hunt. We're very fortunate people and been able to, travel all over and do a lot of hunting
Yeah.
and kill a lot of animals. And I feel like if you ever lost that, that's probably a good time to like reconsider or reestablish
Yeah, and I think
your
like
passion for why you're hunting, because and I don't know if it's compassion for the animal, and that's the way I feel it. That's the way I look at it is,
yeah.
I always think this animal is living right now, and with one action I can make that animal's life end, and I want to do it the fastest way possible.
Yeah.
I want to make the very best shot, and
Yeah.
so it doesn't feel it. And I don't think animals think the same way humans do. Like, oh my gosh, I just been shot. Like, they feel a sting, they run off, and they don't know what's going on. They're like, oh, I'm sick, I better lay down.
Yeah.
And then hopefully they die quick. But yeah, so I got to this spot where I couldn't get myself to pull the trigger. I was too worried.
Yeah.
I was too worried about missing the deer. I was too worried about hitting the deer in a bad spot, and then me being like, really like, what the hell am I doing out here? Like, I shouldn't be out here. And it took me, I was up there for what, 20 minutes?
Yeah.
I was on those deer within like 2 minutes of leaving you guys, or 5 minutes. And I was trying to get myself to pull the damn trigger.
Yeah.
And finally I was just like, I can do this. I've done this before numerous times, and just calm down a little bit and kill the still.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I shot it, and then, long story short, I get down there and I heard the whack. But after you've gone through a number of these experiences, this is where it goes back to the two most important things for me, anyways, when I go on a hunt, is being comfortable or being confident in my equipment and being confident in myself. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like you said, I have lost that.
Yeah. You'll lose it because you
start questioning everything.
Yeah. And that's like this stuff is so intense and it should be intense. And I think if you were here just like if you were here just shooting for meat only, right? It probably wouldn't be as intense. If you were here just trophy hunting, it probably wouldn't be as intense, because objectively those things make you look at the animal differently. But when you're here for this experience, and the experience is important, and you want that experience to be full in a way that ends with the proper result, the result that it should end, and like you're the one who makes it happen one way or the other. It's either a good experience or a good result or a bad result experience, separate from that. And so those connections, man, when you're truly just in it for the experience, the results, when they're bad, man, they just get in your head and continue to eat at you and for me too, I'm sure you're the same way. When you wound something, you're sick about it for months. I was sick
Yeah.
about that elk for months. Still am.
And you
When I
ended
think
up
about
killing him, right?
Yeah, and he's dead. I ate him, and he's
Yeah.
hanging on my wall. But it's just that like inability. When Michael Jordan misses a jump shot, no big deal.
No
You
one's
know,
no one or nothing is directly affected. Maybe some guys gambling on the game, but
whatever.
no
Yeah,
one's directly affected by
and
that.
that's why I don't know, maybe why we've chosen this thing, because it is such a visceral thing to do. And sometimes I think like, man, maybe I chose it, and I feel like such a better person for having done it because it is this way. And if it wasn't this way, I'd have to quit doing it.
Yeah.
Like if the missing and the failure wasn't such a gut wrencher, then man, I walk away right now because that.
Yeah, I know guys, and I've talked to people, and I hear stories, and they'll go out and for whatever reason wound 4 or 5 different critters in a season, and oh man, we'll get them next year. Like I I feel like obviously we're on the same page here, but we have a very we hold the responsibility of taking an animal really high, right? Like it's still very important for the
Yeah,
purposes of it. But like you say, like killing an animal and eating the meat is, I think, the benefit of being able to go out and hunt. Like,
yeah,
but you have to enjoy all of it. You have
yeah,
to enjoy the experience. I mean, you can't honestly say, and I've said this before, is I hunt to eat. That's true. I eat everything I hunt, and I love the fact that I don't have to go to the grocery store and buy red meat to feed my
yeah,
family. We have it. But if you don't enjoy the whole process of the hunt or of hunting, then you're missing out. And when I say the whole process, I mean everything.
yeah, yeah,
This stuff that we're talking about is part of the process.
yeah,
It's getting ready for a hunt. It could be getting a bow ready. It could be scouting. It could be getting time off work. It could be convincing your wife that you can go on a 10-day hunt. Whatever it is, it's the whole experience. And then you have the hunt itself, and you go through these.
yeah.
You have these experiences that we're talking about, and they're the lows.
But doesn't also give you, like, we're getting real deep down the rabbit hole now, but it doesn't get you. It gives
As
you
long as it's not a
perspective.
possum hole
Or an armadillo.
or an armadillo.
You get fucking leprosy from those. Not talking about that. No, I think it just gives you perspective in your daily life. Like
100%.
people I know that really are into hunting and into it for what I believe are like the right reasons or the enriching reasons are people that have this, incredibly pragmatic approach to life. Like you can see a little bit, you can see the thin veneer of bullshit a lot of times because you have been in situations where you work so hard for something and it's not a drive to the green that if you shank it in the weeds, nobody cares. It's not a race that you won or lost. It's not. It's just not. And whether people can make comparisons to other activities that are leisure activities, which this at some level is. It is because we're not hungry when we're going hunting. We'd like to have a sandwich, but we're not starving. And like the end result is serious, man. Really serious in a lot of ways. So I don't know. I think it just when somebody's training very hard for the Olympics, it has a big impact on their life and an ancillary impact on the lives of others, but they're not killing something.
Well, yeah, I guess a good way to think about it. And then when just said what you said, it made me think about like you work a lot, you work hard at a lot of things in your life. Like it could be
Yeah.
a career, it could be your marriage, it could be being a good dad. Like you work hard at different things, or being good at a sport. But none of like we work really hard and prepare and try to prepare as best as we can so that we can take an animal's life.
Yeah, man.
That's when we are success. We can talk about what levels of success a hunt can be if you don't kill something, whatever. But like to get to the point that we're trying to get, and when we finally get to that point, that's an animal dying.
Yeah.
That is the point we're trying
An
to
animal
get at.
died.
Yeah.
Like
Wait, hold on. You just spent how much money and how much time, shot all those arrows, went to all these shoots all over the country, bought all this expensive equipment, like
something died.
to get to a point where you take something's life. I understand sometimes like why people look at this sport if we don't do a good job of promoting it and say, man, that's pretty messed up.
Yeah, man. I get that too. Yeah, and I think it's messed. They think it's messed up because of the reasons that you do it. That's why we're
100%.
always talking about reasoning and we're talking about value systems, and I think that's why we're always talking about that stuff because, God's sakes, we're killing stuff.
Without
But
a
like
doubt.
today, that doe you shot, like we watched the life fucking be gone from her eyes.
We watched 3 lives
Yeah.
leave.
I mean, watched them, not just like came up on them.
yeah, we watched the whole.
Watched like looking in their eyes to see when their eyes are dull instead of life full of life or like lifeless.
Dude, that's heavy, man.
Yeah, that's heavy. And if you're listen, I'm not saying you're messed up, but I'm saying if you're celebrating at that moment, like me and Cal stood over his buck and just kind of like looking at each other like we weren't talking about the shot, which was amazing, or the fact that Ryan Callahan shot a giant axis buck with his long stick, which is amazing.
And we were there to
And that's what we were there to
to
do.
witness, yeah.
And we were like that was what was laying on the ground dying was a success. And like we weren't unpacking all that. We were just looking at this deer like, holy shit, this thing's dying at our feet. And that's not something to jump around about. It's not something to thump your fist about. Something to just take in and at some level just learn from. But it's definitely not something that it's success in like maybe the worst way. Right? It's like, we just did this, and we want to do it, and we're happy we did it, but fuck, well, this thing's dead now, or it's dying, it's fucking suffering. That's not good,
No, man.
We whitewash that out of our minds when we go hunting, probably for a lot of reasons, because it's a heavy thing to even talk about for me right now, and so maybe we just ignore it for that reason.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, like the way it usually goes down is you shoot an animal from 100, 200 yards away with a rifle, or you shoot an elk with your bow at 40 yards, and they run off and die in the trees.
Exactly.
And you don't. I feel like we talk about all the time that sucks sometimes. Like I don't like to see that happen.
Yeah.
Like I like to see the animal dead, but I don't want to be there when it has to happen, right?
Well, and think about it, I've taken new hunters. I think the one thing that's consistent with new hunters, I've taken a few here recently. Took one young lady who we shot a javelina and it was kicking around, and all she could say to me was like, "Make a stop, make a stop, make a stop, make a stop." I'm like, it's dying. It's just nerves. It's dead. But that's it. That's death.
Yeah.
And if every time you ate a hamburger, you had to watch the fucking life go out of the eyes of the cow, boy, hamburgers would taste different.
Well, that's I guess that's why I feel such a responsibility with what we do is when I say we put everything out there how it happens, I mean, I take that pretty serious because I think that's important.
Yeah.
Like I think it's important not only for our audience, but I think it's important for like my wife, my kids. Like my wife didn't understand hunting. Like she grew up in a hunting family. Her dad hunted, her grandparents hunted. We've been married for 14 years, but she didn't understand like the seriousness that I take hunting, I guess, until we started making until I created the Hush channel and started making these videos. And then I'd make her pre-watch everything before I'd like upload and be like, what seemed cheesy? She'd be like in tears, be like, I didn't know this was what this was about. I didn't know how like emotional and like not spiritual, but like she's like, man, I feel this. Like I'll never do this, but I get. I thought you guys. She grew up in a hunting family and she didn't know it.
Yeah.
Imagine when people growing up in non-hunting families that only hear bad things about it.
Yeah. No, my brother is not a hunter. I don't think he's like an anti-hunter, but he's not a hunter, and he has problems with a lot of things that go on in the hunting community. Like he's got on me for shooting foxes before because he doesn't understand we're not eating those things. He doesn't understand it. And he went to Africa with me probably like 5 years ago, and my dad was there. My dad and I grew up hunting together. My brother never went with us, and my dad shoots this kudu. I'm on the other side of this flat, and I run over. My brother's with me. I run over. The kudu is still alive. My dad's like trying to get down a hill and load his gun, and I just look at him, and he just gives me kind of like to shoot this thing. So I just walk up and put my rifle on his neck and shoot. I didn't be like, hey man, I'm gonna put it out of its misery. It was just like very mechanical, just boom. And racked another round, fist pump my dad, talking to the guide, everybody's happy, there's kudu on the ground, and my brother's over crying on the, like not crying, but like tearing up on the hillside. And like I just think he was expecting more reverence than for me to just like charge up to it and just put a hole in it and kill it.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe he was expecting something different. But even at that time, I wasn't raised to have like some different reaction than just to mechanically, robotically just pow, see you.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I think those things are good. I think I oftentimes like I shoot an animal and I always say thank you, but I oftentimes I think I'm just doing that because I think I need to do it. I'm not really doing it. I'm just saying thank you because I like people are there and I want them to think that's what I think.
Yeah, but I also think I mean I agree. I think a lot of times some things are done because of a camera that's on you, or if you never said a word to that animal and you're with this group, me, you, and Cal, like I know that you appreciate that animal, obviously. But we fall into that trap of, that's the right thing to do,
Yeah, and it's just like a lot of things we do that are just going through the motions. But,
yeah.
I was happy we experienced that today.
I was too, man. I'm happy. I can look back on this hunt and say I'm happy about everything I've experienced. Like the ups, the downs. Like, man, just learning about the axis deer has been the highlight of the trip. But not the highlight of the trip, but it's been worth the trip. Just being like everyone always wants to know, like how can I be a better elk hunter? How can I be a better deer hunter? Go spend time with the animals. Go be with them.
That's why this is like you want some spot and stalk training.
Oh my goodness.
You want some mid-season, like if you're an elk hunter and you get one chance a year to go hunt and you get one or two shots and you're just wondering like how could I train for this?
Look up
Canyon Ranch.
Yeah. 100% agree. I used to tell people that all the time about coyote hunting. Like, why do you like? What's the purpose of coyote hunting? It's like, well, I feel like we need to manage the predator population, obviously in certain areas, and two, like if you want to become efficient with a weapon, especially a rifle, go use it a lot in real life situations, like trying to get on a running coyote if you're calling him in, or trying to stalk an axis buck with your bow, or even learning how to shoot out. I don't sit many blinds.
Yeah.
I've tried and I've never been successful. And when I say tried, I mean for elk or for deer.
Yeah.
Man, I learned how to sit a blind and what to do and how to build a blind.
Yeah, when to draw and what to do.
When to draw, when not to draw. Like if you want to get better at something, do it a lot.
Yeah. No, for sure. And these are opportunities to do that. And in the same way, you're just out there thinking, this isn't training, but there's so many deer and they were so predictable in this heat. And we were coming down here, we're like, man, it's 100 degrees, it's going to be tough on. I'm like, no, this is good.
Yeah.
Because we can get in between the thing they need and where they're headed and just get right in between them, and they're going to keep coming to it because they have to. And that's what we encountered. And you just don't, that's just not often the case. And you could go home with a lot of meat. You come to a cool place like this and get a bunch of chigger bites.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I could if I wanted to.
You got to stop itching those things, man.
Look at them.
Oh, my God. You're itching holes in yourself.
I can't not.
We're going to put oven mitts on the drive home.
I can't not itch them. Does that make sense? No, this has been, I mean, every hunt I look back on, and I'm just grateful for the opportunity to be able to go out and do it.
Yeah.
One, but for two, the experiences I've learned, and we didn't really dive into it. We kind of got a little deep, but man, I tell people all the time, like some of the most important lessons I've learned in life have been out in the woods.
Yeah.
Been doing something that, you go through something hunting and you miss an animal, and you start thinking about things and you're like, oh well, that really applies to me being a dad or me being a better husband. Like, I get this because of I had this experience out in the woods. Like, might sound cheesy, but it's true. it's 100% true. And I tell my wife this all the time, and she gets it now. After watching some of our videos, she's like, I get it. Like, it's not just about being out there and shooting an animal and bringing meat home so we can have steaks, on the grill. It's a spiritual. I'd like to use that word because whatever spirit you want to believe in, or whatever, like, people feel different spirituality levels, but it's a very emotional, spiritual, like, powerful thing taking a life.
Yeah, and I think we spent a lot of time this week drinking beers around the table, talking about like our frustrations with things, and what we see in others in hunting that we don't necessarily enjoy. And I think we do that because you get to that level where you are so invested in it, you have this experiences, and you see people that you'd like to say like, "Hey, man, if you just didn't worry about that buck being 35 inches and over, what are you here to do? I'm here to get a 35-inch over axis buck." You're like, well, bro, you're gonna miss a lot. You might get that 36-incher. You might put it on your wall, and people might say, "What? Tell me a story about that," and it'll be a pretty short one. Or the same thing. It's like, I'm just here to shoot a couple meat animals. Man, there's more. There's more than that. And so I think that our frustrations probably just come from this. It's like, man, we got something really awesome here. You're doing the same thing we're doing, but we're doing different things.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense at all. Like, if we're
100%.
We're out there hunting. We're both hunting, but we're not both doing the same thing. Yeah.
Well, I would say it like this: like, if you're chasing a number, you will never feel satisfied, I don't think, because numbers, there's always a bigger number, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's like when I tell people about making the decision to do YouTube full time instead of work at the steel mill anymore, and they're like, "Well, how can I do that?" It's like, why do you want to do that? Why do you want to create content, and whatever content that might be? Well, I want to make money. It's like, if you're chasing money, man, you'll never be satisfied because you can always make more money.
Yeah.
You make $1 million, I want to make $2 million. But if you do it in a purpose because you're passionate about it, like, that's where I think all the money in the world, like, it doesn't matter if you had all the money in the world. Or a good phrase I just heard recently is, if money wasn't an object, money didn't matter, you didn't need money to survive, would you be doing what you're doing right now?
Yeah.
Currently.
Yeah.
If you can say yes, then I think you're 100% honest with yourself, like, and you can say, yeah, I'm successful.
Yeah.
Same thing with hunting. Like, if you're just chasing to shoot I think about elk and deer. That's where I grew up. But you want to shoot a 200-inch muley or a 400-inch bull because then you'll be satisfied. You shoot one, and then guess what? There's a 410 out there. Somebody just shot.
I know some people very well that if I said their names, a lot of people, everybody would know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That are like, I have to everywhere I go, I have to shoot a Boone and Crockett animal. Like, in their things to travel around the world and having to, like, that's the goal, is to get 27 number, how many ever of them there are.
Yeah.
These are not bad people, and they're very good hunters and conscientious hunters. They're not bad people, but this thing has shifted for them to something different.
But if you're not enjoying the process of it, and you're not passionate about the process, and I think that's an important thing. If you're not passionate about everything it takes to be a hunter, then you're missing it. You're missing a big portion of it anyways.
Oh, yeah.
And same thing with eating meat, like you said, man. Like, if you're just going out to kill an animal to eat it, like, you're missing a big part of it.
You are. And that's why I always said, like, those things are byproducts of hunting.
Yeah.
Meat and antlers and conservation are all things we talk about, but they're all just like these things that happen as a result of hunting. Like, they just happen as a result of hunting. Hunting is the process that leads to those results, but it isn't those results in and of itself. Like, those things are separate. And we come here, we learn about ticks, we fucking learn about these things we want to learn about, rather not know about that damn. And listen about armadillos. We should say again, armadillos give you leprosy.
Leprosy, people.
If you're gonna get leprosy.
You don't know what leprosy is.
Idiots.
Read the Bible.
Stop playing with armadillos. You see one on the side of the road, swerve and hit it.
And chiggers, man. I will go home. I feel like I'm pretty confident I'm gonna go back to Idaho and be one of maybe a few that know about the Lone Star tick.
Yeah.
And know about what chigger bites feel like, and know about,
boy, that's perspective.
Leprosy.
Next spring turkey season in Idaho, you'll be like, there are no chiggers here.
Yeah.
This place is awesome.
pants will be optional next year.
Yeah. You'll still have the scars from your current jigger situation.
Yeah, I'll just oh my goodness,
they're
it's
terrible.
bad.
Well, we were getting all deep and having this conversation. Casey's over here just scratching his legs and give me the business.
I'm glad you don't videotape this.
No, I don't. This doesn't belong.
Well, I guess you can't because I haven't been wearing pants this whole time.
Yeah, I'm wearing 2 pairs of pants.
Ben put my pants on because he thought they could be worn.
Yeah, like somebody's got to be wearing these things. That's what fit into them.
Yeah.
Well, Casey, I was gonna ask you to close it out. I was just thinking about asking you about what's the one thing you would tell people that want to do what you do, which is, of course, get Hushin, the YouTube channel and content channel that follows you guys around in your lives and outdoors. But is there one thing? I mean, I think you maybe already said it, but is there something that, because you made the jump from a 9-to-5 job that wasn't your passion to chase your passion, and a lot of people do this and fail. So some succeed, but I think the outliers are the ones that succeed because it's tough. Is there something that you would just say, if you do this, you'll win. If you do this, you'll be happy?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things I would like to say, but if there was one thing that I could tell you that would help you become successful, is do it for, and this is going to be a cliche, anything I can say right now is going to be a cliche, but do it for the right reason. And you have to figure out what the right reason is, because once again, if you're doing it to make money, or if you're doing it to become, I hate this word, famous, then you can never reach that, because that's only an opinion. Oh yeah, I'm rich. What's rich anymore? And you'll always be chasing money, but do it because you're passionate about what you're creating.
Yeah.
And if you do that, it doesn't matter how many people watch. It doesn't matter how many views you get. It doesn't matter how many brands want to work with you. If you're doing it because you love the content you're creating and you're passionate about it, you win. You're successful.
Yeah.
And you will create better content because you're passionate about it.
Yeah, and often a whole lot of money ruins that passion.
100%.
So
I say that a lot. 100%. Can you edit out 14 times?
No, we're gonna add them in.
I've said it probably 28 times. At least cut 14 of them out.
I'm gonna be like, hey, Casey, you're gonna be like 100%.
Just dub it in.
100%. Chad, do you like those chicken bites? 100%. There's probably things that I say a lot when you do this. I listen to Joe Rogan. I listen to Joe Rogan's podcast every day.
Yeah.
And there's things he says that you just you want to say, man,
hey,
say that a lot. But
yeah.
When you talk for a living, it's just how it is. Brain's not big enough to hold too many.
When I'm on a camera, it's different. I don't know why. Maybe I can see my mouth moving because I'm usually watching what I'm filming. But when I'm on these podcasts and you guys don't film them, I've been on a couple and I go back and listen to them, I'm like, man, people.
I feel like filming podcasts is fine, but it just makes you a little bit more aware. You're aware of your movements. We're literally just sitting in a kind of dumpy little room.
Hey, this was my room for the last 3 days.
It's nice. I mean, there's just random. It's like a 1980s. It's kind of like maybe if before Scarface got rich, when there's some very ornate photos of wildlife around.
I just noticed there's a picture of a very poorly drawn cheetah behind you.
And well, and behind that's a picture of a very poor lion and then a zebra.
They have gold.
And there's a candelabra.
Frames.
There's a candelabra on the wall that looks like it might have come off the set of The First Night. You remember that movie where
yeah,
what was it? Because Richard Gere was Sir Lancelot.
Yeah.
So a little candelabra that came from that set, and then there's a dirty, empty fireplace.
Yeah.
It's just.
What's funny is I haven't noticed a lot of these things about this room, and now I'm looking around. I'm like, this.
You clearly have some sort of tick fever that doesn't allow.
Yeah, I've been preoccupied with my sugar bites on my legs, I guess. Anyway,
that's it.
That's all.
That's all we have to say. Thanks, man. This was a fun week.
No, man. I all I can say is thank you. Thanks for inviting me to come down here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had an absolute blast. You're one of we try to get out and hunt with all of our sponsors at least once a year, and this is our second hunt, and I hope we continue to do more because I've hunted with a lot of people in my life, and there's some people that you choose to hunt with.
Sure.
You're not one of them, so I just wanted to let you know that.
You're a piece of shit.
No,
you didn't make the cut, O'Brien.
The funny thing is, and I made a post about this a while back, I feel like the best way for me to get to know somebody is to take them out to do something you love, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
hunting, and we
Yeah.
both love that. For
Yeah.
me, we met Ben O'Brien, and Ben O'Brien works for Yeti, and so he was our contact with Yeti, and Yeti's one of our sponsors, and we've been working together for a couple of years, and it was like, oh, let's take Ben O'Brien out from Yeti on this deer hunt we do every year. And in my head, I'm like, Ben's cool, but man, I think he's pretty like serious. Like, I don't know how well he'll fit in, because that's the one thing I think
Yeah.
you notice is, if we're out creating content, 100%, I'm going to be laughing most of the time, and I'm going to be
Yes.
trying to make other people laugh. So I was like, I don't know, Ben, like, what if Ben comes on this hunt? It's like, those guys are they're having way too much fun
Bunch of
out
clowns.
there. Yes.
Clowns.
It's bad for the industry.
There's armadillos.
You guys are having fun. You're not supposed to. Anyways, we go out, and we quickly learn that Ben is us to a T. Ben likes to laugh and have fun, take it serious, but not too serious. And so anyway, I appreciate you inviting me down. Hope we can do some more hunts in the near future, Ben.
In the real near future.
Real near future.
100%.
100%.
Certain.
100%.
Bye.
Later.
That's it. It's over. Episode number 14 in the books. I want to really thank Casey for joining me, not only on the hunt in Texas, but on the podcast as well. It was a goal of mine to have him and his crew on when we first started doing this, and I'm glad we were able to do it for episode number 14. My big takeaway from this one is just, here's a man who followed his dream. Here's a man who was working a 9-to-5 and saw an avenue to live a different lifestyle and a different life for his family, and took it, and he caught his dream, and I think he's living it right now, and super proud to know him and proud to call him a friend. Casey Butler. Hopefully you guys, if you're not already, will follow those guys at Get Hushin. Follow their adventures. You'll find them on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and all that fun stuff. Well, as most of you know who are regular listeners, I heard from a lot of you, we took a little bit of a break. It wasn't that long of a break, a couple of weeks after our Lanai trip. And suffice to say, there's a lot of big things coming for the Hunting Collective after episode number 14. I'm planning on expanding, planning on bringing new types of content, and I think we have a pretty exciting way to do that in the future. And so we'll be making some announcements in the next few weeks and months that start to detail what we want to do and rev the engines after what I really would consider a fantastically successful first 13 episodes. A lot of folks listened. I was able to get my feet under me. I'm sure I made a lot of mistakes, did a lot of things wrong, but I'm glad some of this is resonating with folks, and I really am thankful for each and every one of you that writes in and says good things, or with criticisms as well. I think all those things are healthy, and I appreciate every word that's written. Until the next time, episode number 15, we'll be joined by Ryan Callahan, First Light, his second appearance on the podcast. He was also on our hunt, and we did a separate interview with him just to kind of get his feelings, thoughts, both on our time in Sonora, but just how he does things. And then those of you that know Mr. Callahan knows those things are unique. So until then, thehuntingcollective.com will have all the notes from this episode, articles, and videos, and all kinds of other stuff. But each of our past episodes, including Steven Ranella, including Aubrey Marcus, including our Lanai recap with Sam Soholt. You have guys like, there's so many of them, it's hard to say. Shane Mahoney. Let's put Shane Mahoney out there. I stumble over my words on that one, but we'll keep it in there because there's just so much to think about, so much conversation, so many words. I'm glad they were all recorded. So I quit babbling for this terribly long exit, but we are gone. Episode number 14 of the books. See you next time.